Today on State Scoop's Priorities Podcast, how Pennsylvania is streamlining its hiring process. Welcome to State Scoop's Priorities Podcast. Every Wednesday, you'll get insights into the state and local government community, hear from top leaders, and learn about the latest news and trends across the industry. I'm Colin Wood, State Scoop's Editor-in-Chief. Here's what's happening this week. Washington State's Technology Bureau has partnered with the University of California, Berkeley to better understand how nonprofits in the state may be exposed to cybersecurity risks. Bill Kehoe, Washington's Chief Information Officer, said protecting nonprofits ensures that the public will get the best from their state and local governments. Kentucky's Acting Chief Information Officer, Jim Barnhart, has been promoted to lead the Commonwealth's Office of Technology as its statewide CIO. The promotion comes after Barnhart spent nearly 2 decades serving as the state's deputy CIO. And Maine lawmakers last week urged the Trump administration to unfreeze Digital Equity Act funds they say are essential for the state's future. Led by Republican Senator Susan Collins, the group said that the rural state was depending on the $35 million it was set to receive to improve access to technology and skills training. On this week's Priorities Podcast, I interviewed 2 officials from Pennsylvania's state government to better understand how they're streamlining their hiring processes. Workforce shortages and challenges competing with the private sector are perennial issues for state governments, but Pennsylvania has made some progress recently, reducing the time to hire from an average of 90 days down to 58 days. Miranda Martin, the state's Director of Talent Management, explains some of the changes the state's been making, and Harrison McRae, the state's Director of Emerging Technologies, fills in some of the details on how technology is being used to further the state's hiring efforts.
The Time to Hire project really kicked off when Governor Shapiro took office. This administration came in and was very clear that they wanted us to reduce our time to hire so that we could better compete and move at the speed of business in government. At the time Governor Shapiro took office, as a whole, the Commonwealth was averaging 90 days overall time to hire. And 3 months is just too long to compete for talent. So we got to work right away and looked at our processes and procedures and worked really hard to reduce that time. And I'm happy to say that as of the end of the first quarter, 2025, we were averaging about 58 days as a whole for the Commonwealth time to hire. So we've reduced it by about 35% since this administration came in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue with competing with the private sector, and I don't know what else. What are the biggest challenges that you face when you're trying to fill open positions in the state?
The biggest challenge has really just been the amount of time it takes. 3 months is way too long to compete for talent, and private companies are able to offer much faster positions, on the spot job offers at times. And the Commonwealth has, a few more steps to go through in order to offer a position, but we can certainly shorten that time frame that we have. So it's really been the time frame, because our jobs are very attractive and the benefits are great and the retirement is great. So I really think if we can just be more timely, I think we'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Okay. So when you started looking at the process and figuring out how you could eliminate steps or streamline things, can you sort of illustrate what the process looked like to begin with?
Yeah. So we are fortunate to have one applicant tracking system that we use for hiring, which allows us to then have data that we can use to dig into each step of the process. So we're able to see at every step of the hiring process an average amount of time that each step takes, and we can drill down into each agency, and within each agency, each bureau, each division, so we can see exactly how long everyone is taking at each step. So we looked at all of the steps that HR controlled and looked at ways that we could either move some things to post offer, so we're able to still move along in hiring and complete some parts of the process post conditional offer. But we're able to see also like the amount of time it takes, and of those steps, the interview step we found to be the longest across the board at almost every single agency. Typically, the interview step accounts for about half of the overall time to hire, averaging right now 25 to 30 days by agency. So that has really allowed us to determine where we need to focus our efforts, where we need to provide better support or guidance or training to hiring managers to help continue streamlining the time.
Right. And why was the interview process taking so long?
I think it can be challenging at times when you have interview panels to coordinate schedules, to have everyone be available at the same time. Um, Hiring managers have their regular jobs they're trying to do. It's hard to squeeze in and prioritize interviewing. So to get ahead of that, we need to be predictable in HR. We have to be predictable so that hiring managers know when they can expect to have candidates to interview, know when they can block off time ahead of time on their calendars and reserve that time, and be ready when they get their candidates. But I found that there were a lot of kind of urban legends in hiring and what was allowed or not allowed when it comes to interviews. Some hiring managers had these ideas that they had to have a certain number of people on their interview panel, or that the panel couldn't change if maybe someone was out sick. They thought they had to pause all efforts. So there were some myths to dispel out there. And we put together some reference guides for hiring managers, just clean, simple one-sheeters that they can reference when they're getting ready to conduct interviews, that help to remind them of what they can and can't do, and kind of some tips and tricks to help make it quick and easy for them to complete.
Right. Now, when you were starting this out, did you have an idea that technology would be like an important part of this, or did that come later at some point?
I mean, I think I've always thought that technology would help. I mean, once upon a time, we used to call every single person and try to coordinate interviews over the phone. And now we leverage our applicant tracking system to help automate that. And that has sped up the process. But I really didn't know how AI would have a hand in that also. So that has been a really fun, interesting surprise to see how there's an opportunity there as well.
Right. So that's a good question for you, I think, Harrison. What was so first, what technologies were used, and what were they used for in this project?
Yeah, so as Miranda said, they have kind of their initial technology stack, which is their applicant tracking platform. But one thing that was really exciting over the past year is we've had a pilot program we've done with OpenAI to pilot ChatGPT Enterprise amongst a range of different employees from different teams. So just as a little bit of context for that, we had about 175 employees from 14 different agencies get to try out ChatGPT Enterprise. We were, to my knowledge, the first state to work with OpenAI for their enterprise product, and really understand from them, where, when, how do these tools help enable them in their day-to-day. And our team was lucky enough to get to work with a number of different folks from the Commonwealth HR team, and they were some of our best users with ChatGPT Enterprise throughout the pilot. They had access throughout most of last year, and throughout the year, part of this pilot program, we did a bunch of dedicated survey work, focus groups, user interviews to really understand, again, how and where could these tools be helpful. And we found when it related to hiring specifically, there was kind of two different ways and two different groups of users that were able to see some benefits in this work. The first is we had some of our direct HR employees who, while they weren't necessarily directly working in the kind of bounded time to hire days that Miranda was counting, they help with a lot of the preparation to set those teams up for success. So one of these teams works with a lot of our job classification work, where they help match the thousands of different job classifications we have at the Commonwealth to the correct position descriptions, and help different agencies and teams navigate basically making sure that when they're hiring someone, everything is in alignment between, their hiring goals, the position description, and that's appropriately matching our classification. Something that's, really important work, whether it's local, state, federal government, making sure those classifications really match the types of roles we're hiring for. And this team was a mix of folks who, had never used ChatGPT, but were excited about being part of this pilot. And they were able to really redesign some of their workflow to help be able to do a lot of that matching work faster, and then use their own expertise in the work to kind of deliver that best customer service to the agencies that they worked with. One of our participants on this team, has talked about how it really helped them get through that kind of first 80% of the work more quickly. And then that last 20%, they again were able to use all of their experience understanding all these different job classifications and really help make the right decisions in terms of how they could do this matching work most effectively. The second set of employees who we found have some benefit weren't always on our HR team specifically, but as Miranda was saying, we have a lot of folks who serve as hiring managers at different points in the process, and these folks often were able to use ChatGPT to help, refresh the types of interview questions they were asking, make sure that the postings were kind of as attractive as possible. And that's something that, as with a lot of kind of the work we saw with ChatGPT, is something that could be common across a wide range of employees from different experiences. So the only reason, this work was successful is because Miranda and her team have built like kind of a very large, great structure for the time to hire work. And it allowed us to kind of give these tools to some of those folks to see where it could continue to drive value on top of that.
Right. So does having, and this question is for either of you, does having or properly matching the classifications with the jobs, does that accelerate things, or is that more of like a quality of life thing, or just like a general improvement, or does it actually make things go faster?
That's a key part of the process in order to post a position. Before a vacancy is posted for application, we have to make sure it's properly defined, that the description of the work and the knowledge needed to be successful in the job and the requirements are all appropriate for that job. So historically, hiring managers aren't always great at keeping those position descriptions up to date. And as times change, they may become outdated with references to technology or processes that are no longer in place. So when a hiring manager goes to fill a position, if the description of that work is outdated, it holds up the hiring process until they're able to get that updated accurately as of today. So this project to get all of these position descriptions updated just really helps the hiring process then to kick off right away without delay.
Right. So I think probably a lot of our government viewers and listeners are familiar with this issue. A lot of times the job classifications are, the titles themselves are not very descriptive, and then also some of the issues that you mentioned. But Harrison, maybe for anyone else, or just as a refresher, could you kind of maybe give an example of one of the, like, so what the matching process would look like, the type of role, and like the sorts of issues that someone is working through with ChatGPT?
Yeah, happy to do so. And some of our folks who are in the weeds of this work on those team, they have so many more examples than I can pull off the top of my head. But I know one example that they had was they were working with an agency where there was a range of different skills that they needed on their team, but they only had a select number of different actual positions they could hire for. And one of the things they helped use ChatGPT for was to basically help them more quickly digest kind of that bucket of different pieces of work that this team requested, and help properly align them into more discrete position descriptions that then aligned with different classifications that were suitable for that team. That's the type of work where, again, they are accustomed to doing that more manually and going through everything, but they were able to really speed up that initial matching process and organization of all the text that had been provided to them, and then make those final determinations themselves. And I remember them talking specifically about this, how, they were able to turn the final recommendations around on that same day. And it was something that normally would have taken them much longer to do. And there's a lot of examples like that where basically, again, it was all these little moments in the hiring process where this matching work was able just to kind of help improve their total workflow using these tools.
Right. Are there any other technology uses that we didn't get to, or does that cover it for the Time to Hire project? I'm sure you're using AI more broadly in the state, but for this project specifically.
Another big project that we did utilize this technology for was, you may have heard with the federal government and the furloughs or layoffs or people just leaving the federal workforce. We have an initiative in Pennsylvania to try to help better educate federal employees on opportunities that already exist in Pennsylvania state government. And we wanted to make it very easy for them to identify how they would fit in our system. And while our jobs are very, very similar, since it's all government, we don't use the same naming conventions all the time. So we leveraged AI to help us look at the federal classification system and compare it to ours so that we could then do a cross match between the two. And we developed a website where we have information for federal workers who are looking for other employment, but we also feature some of that cross-matching between the federal jobs and our Pennsylvania state government jobs, so they can easily see how they would fit in our system and like where they would find a home with us. And that was a huge, huge help because it's a mammoth effort to try to cross-reference thousands to thousands of jobs.
Yeah, those are the kind of tedious, really text-heavy things that I continually hear from CIOs and other IT officials saying that was their hope from the beginning. When from the beginning, I mean, a few years ago when ChatGPT specifically became public, saying those are the kinds of things they wanted to start doing, for sure. Okay. Any other? I want to end by asking about lessons learned. But before we do that, are there any other aspects of this initiative that we need to cover? Did we? No, we got there. Okay, great. Well, what did you learn, if anything, through going through this process? Any advice for other states interested in doing something similar?
For time to hire, I would say the lesson that I've learned is that it's critical to have an applicant tracking system. You want to rely on your data. The data is going to be very helpful to identify where you have opportunities for improvement. And I think communication is so critical with all of your agencies and hiring managers. With such large organizations as government, it's important to ensure that everyone is on the same page. And data and technology play a huge part in hiring and the work that we already do. And we want to leverage that as best we can to be as efficient as we can. But Harrison, I don't know if you have other things specific to the AI pilot.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is, I think there's a lot of different things that AI can do or be used for right now. And any of those uses are only kind of as strong as the problem scope it's being applied to. And part of why, we tested a lot of different employees doing different things throughout our pilot, but part of why some of this work was successful for us is because Miranda and the teams that she worked with have a very clear scope and what success looks like and have been able to move the needle on time to hire. And that sort of framework and problem scoping allows us to then have those folks or some of those folks participate in the pilot and really be set up for success as they experiment and try with these tools. So I think, my kind of item on this topic to leave folks with would just be that, for any of our AI work, it's always a collaboration between, the technology and the teams and agencies and the end users we're serving. And you're only going to be as successful as you can align your goals and strategy with those teams. And that was easy to do in this case. Right.
I did think of one more thing that I'd meant to ask you is when we covered this a few weeks ago, the number that was there is the goal was to reduce the time to hire by 8 more days by the end of the year. Are you guys going to make it?
I hope so. I think we will. I think, as I said earlier, the interview time right now accounts for 25 to 30 days on average. I really think hiring managers will be able to shave off some additional days there. We're so close. We've made it from 90 to 58. We're on our way. I really think we can get there, especially with new tools. As we get more tools and more comfortable in using them, I definitely see huge opportunities for continued improvement. So yeah, I think we'll get there.
That was Miranda Martin and Harrison McRae from Pennsylvania. A big thank you to both of our guests this week. That's it for this episode. You can subscribe to the Priorities Podcast at prioritiespodcast.com. This recording is a production of Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Thanks to Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher for helping to put it together. I'm Colin Wood. Thanks for listening.